Let's be real, folks. History is messy. It's a complex web of events, decisions, and actions that have shaped the world we live in today. It's a tapestry woven with threads of triumph and tragedy, progress and prejudice. Each thread tells a story, each knot a moment in time. And one of the darkest, most persistent stains on our collective story is racial discrimination. It's a shadow that has loomed over humanity for centuries. From the Americas to Africa, Europe to Asia, no corner of the globe has been untouched by this blight. The belief that one race is superior to another has fueled conflicts, toppled empires, and left scars that are still visible today. It has shaped the destinies of nations, influencing policies, economies, and societies. It's a story of oppression and injustice, of lives shattered and potential extinguished. Generations have suffered under the weight of this systemic inequality, their dreams deferred and their voices silenced. We're talking about centuries of exploitation, where entire communities were subjugated and stripped of their rights. Segregation, violence, and systemic discrimination have been tools of oppression used to maintain power and control, all because of the color of someone's skin or the origin of their ancestors. It's a painful legacy that we must confront. This isn't ancient history, folks. The echoes of racial discrimination continue to reverberate through our societies. The legacy of racial discrimination continues to echo through generations, shaping the world we live in today. It affects our institutions, our communities, and our relationships. Shaping the world we live in today, it influences our laws, our economies, and our social structures. But amidst the darkness, there are glimmers of hope. Stories of resilience, resistance, and reconciliation remind us that a different path is possible. These stories inspire us to believe in the possibility of change, to strive for a world where equality and justice prevail. This essay is about confronting the ugly truth of racial discrimination, understanding its impact, and exploring how nations can rise above this toxic legacy to build a more just and equitable world. It's a call to action, a plea for understanding, and a vision for a future where every individual is valued and respected, regardless of their race or background. European colonialism, that grand adventure in exploitation, left a trail of devastation across the globe. But it wasn't just about stealing resources and land, it was also about dividing people. The strategy was simple: pit ethnic groups against each other, highlight differences, and create a hierarchy where the colonizers sat comfortably at the top. This divide and conquer tactic fueled tensions and conflicts that continue to haunt many post-colonial nations today. Take Rwanda, for example. Belgian colonial rule exacerbated existing social divisions between the Hutu and Tutsi communities, classifying them as separate races and fueling animosity that ultimately culminated in the horrific 1994 genocide. The legacy of colonialism is a bitter pill to swallow. It's a reminder that racial discrimination isn't just a matter of individual prejudice. It can be a calculated tool used to maintain power and control. Across the Atlantic, the United States was grappling with its own demons. Jim Crow laws, enacted after the Civil War, enforced racial segregation in the South with brutal efficiency. Black Americans were relegated to separate schools, restrooms, and even water fountains. They were denied basic rights, subjected to violence, and systematically excluded from economic opportunities. Meanwhile, in South Africa, the Apartheid regime took racial segregation to new heights of cruelty. This system of institutionalized racial discrimination denied Black South Africans basic human rights, forcing them to live in separate areas, work in menial jobs, and carry passes just to exist in their own country. The economic consequences of these systems were devastating. Jim Crow and apartheid stifled innovation, limited access to education and capital, and created massive wealth disparities that persist to this day. Section 4. When Hate Consumes: the Holocaust and Bosnia's Agony. This chapter delves into the darkest recesses of human history, where unchecked hatred led to unimaginable suffering and loss. But racial discrimination isn't always about segregation or economic control. It can manifest in various forms, often starting subtly before escalating into more overt and dangerous expressions. Sometimes it metastasizes into something far more sinister: genocide. This is the ultimate expression of racial hatred, where the goal is the complete eradication of a people. The Holocaust, orchestrated by Nazi Germany during World War II, stands as a chilling testament to the horrors that can unfold when racial hatred is allowed to fester and grow. It was a systematic, state-sponsored persecution and murder of 6 million Jews, along with millions of others deemed undesirable. Millions of Jews, Roma, LGBTQ+ individuals, and other minorities were systematically murdered, victims of a regime fueled by twisted ideology and an insatiable thirst for racial purity. The machinery of death was relentless, with concentration camps becoming the epicenters of this human tragedy. Decades later, the world watched in horror as ethnic cleansing ripped through Bosnia. The echoes of past atrocities were heard once more as communities were torn apart by violence and hatred. Fueled by Serbian nationalism, this brutal conflict saw Bosnian Muslims and Croats targeted for extermination, their homes destroyed, and their communities torn apart. The international community struggled to respond effectively, and the scars of this conflict remain visible today. These atrocities serve as stark reminders of what happens when racial discrimination is allowed to spiral out of control. They highlight the importance of early intervention and the need for global solidarity in the face of such threats. They are scars on the conscience of humanity, reminding us of the fragility of peace and the constant need for vigilance against hatred and intolerance. It is a call to action for all of us to stand against discrimination in all its forms and to promote a world where diversity is celebrated and protected. Section 5. Seeds of Hope. South Africa's journey from apartheid to Ubuntu. But amidst the darkness, there are glimmers of hope. These glimmers are not just fleeting moments, but powerful stories that have shaped the nation's path. Stories of resilience, resistance, and reconciliation remind us that a different path is possible. These narratives are woven into the very fabric of South African society, showcasing the indomitable spirit of its people. South Africa's journey from the shackles of apartheid to a multiracial democracy is a testament to the power of the human spirit to overcome even the most deeply entrenched systems of oppression. The 1994 election, where Nelson Mandela cast his vote, marked a pivotal moment in this journey. Led by visionaries like Nelson Mandela and Desmond Tutu, the anti-apartheid movement brought together people of all races, united in their fight for justice and equality. Their leadership and unwavering commitment inspired millions to join the cause. Through protests, boycotts, and international pressure, they chipped away at the foundations of apartheid, ultimately paving the way for a peaceful transition to democracy in 1994. The global community played a crucial role, standing in solidarity with South Africans in their quest for freedom. The establishment of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, a groundbreaking experiment in restorative justice, allowed victims and perpetrators of apartheid-era crimes to share their stories, seek forgiveness, and begin the difficult process of healing. This process was not just about addressing past wrongs, but also about building a foundation for a more inclusive future. South Africa's journey is far from over, and the scars of apartheid run deep. The nation continues to grapple with issues of inequality and social justice, reminding us that the fight for true equality is ongoing. But their commitment to building a nation based on the principles of Ubuntu, an Nguni Bantu term emphasizing humanity, interconnectedness, and compassion, offers a beacon of hope for a world yearning for reconciliation and understanding. Ubuntu teaches us that our humanity is intertwined, and through this interconnectedness, we can find the strength to heal and move forward together.